What is up, guys? You're tuning into NickyMGTV for another video. As always, you can hit me up on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, or down in the comments below if you have questions. But as always, roll into the topic of you guys liking, commenting, subscribing, all that fun stuff. So this video comes from a fellow military YouTuber, which says he's had it harder than the rest of us, probably including me, Austin Alexander, DWK Videos, JT Suits, all these other people, to say that his experience in the military is harder or worse than that. And that's what's kind of triggered this video, because I want to rebuttal this, because there's a lot of stuff that I agree with, there's a lot of stuff I disagree with about what Justyoon is saying.
If you are very lucky, get that 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10, right? You can work with cool people, you can have a cool job, and you can be in a cool working environment, right? If you are very, very lucky. But on the other end of the spectrum, when there's good things, there are bad things, right? And definitely for me, I wouldn't say I was a 1, but I definitely got, I would say right about a 3 on the spectrum. And one thing that I want to say is, I'm not saying I've had the worst experience, right? But there is no other military YouTubers out there that have gone through what I have gone through. They cannot even fathom this. They cannot even imagine what I went through, right? Because they've had such a close to a 10 out of 10 military experience that to try to understand a 3 out of 10 military experience, they can't, right? Because when I went to my ship, an aircraft carrier can be used.
I want to rebuttal this a little bit, okay? Not because I think I'm. This is where we get into whose stuff is bigger than the other person's, right? That's not even what this is about for me. What it's about is the assumption that because I talk positively about the military, there's someone that said that even about me and Donnie, DWK Videos, said they sugarcoat it. Like he said, though, there are positives and negatives to everything, which if you watch my videos, I poke at the positives and negatives, and I don't just bash it either way. And I do that to be fair for your assessment and knowledge, because, you know, I try and find good things about things, because it's always easy to find bad things about it too, but at least you understand it. Now, what Yoon doesn't understand is I made a channel as a seasoned E5 at 8+ years in the military, where I was coming to a senior position. I made E6 shortly after. And so for him to think like, just because I didn't document my E1 time or experience doesn't mean I didn't have tough times. And I'm not saying that mine were tougher. I'm just saying, like, just because I don't show that, that's just because I didn't document it, right? And I will say that I would say it's a false idea to say that anybody has had a greater than 3 out of 10 experience. If you look at JT Suits, look at his beginning videos, go watch the oldest videos he has of him in Japan. It looks miserable, right? And you look at this, and I'm like, if you talk to JT, you talk to people that are getting out, it's because they haven't had a great experience. And that's okay. And they want to share that it's okay to do a stepping stone of the military and move on. So it's not even about the fact that you're trying to say that you have done more or had a harder time. It's just like, I think it's a misconceived perception that you're having of our experience, when really I don't post that stuff because the military is very tiny. I don't post the negative all the time. I have negative things going on right now that I'm dealing with, that I'm trying to be positive about. And does it help to just come on here and be Ashley Apollo and talk trash about my chain of command? That's not going to do anything. The Navy is tiny. You're going to cross paths with people once again. And so that's why I think this video, looking at it now, there's definitely some things I probably wouldn't have said that are going to come up in the future, but stay tuned.
For 50 years. And in between, at the 25-year mark, is a shipyard period called Reactor Complex Overhaul, RCOH. And I went at the back half of RCOH, and at that time, it doesn't matter what rank you are, what rate you are, you could have been an ET, CT, HM, LS, CS, PS, YN, I could go down the list, ETN, MMN, right? It doesn't matter what rate you are. It doesn't matter, you could have been in for a year, 10 years, 15 yeyears, 20 years, from E1 to E6, your job is to do shipyard work. The first video that you're seeing is me 2 years in as an E3, breaking the floors, grinding the deck to replace the deck, right? And the next video that you're seeing was me a month ago as an E5, 5 years in, breaking the floors, grinding the deck, working alongside with LPOs, E6s that are managing 50 people, working alongside first classes that have been in for 19 years that are about to retire next year. And
I want to go into that because I think his attitude, I get his point, is like even seasoned people are working. And him as an E5 at 5 years, like in military terms, like I look at myself and I'm like, dude, I'm hitting 12 years in November. The second I ever think that my time or tenure is going to be the defining factor of how I'm going to get on my hands and knees to go do a job, that is where I've failed as a leader. That's the way I look at it. And you can talk to people. I've never asked anyone to do something I'm usually have not done at some point. If I don't know, I'm going to let you know, and I'll be honest with it. My point to him on this is don't hold a rank to a certain level of these people are the workers and these people that are this rank are not the workers. That's how you create divisions of power and bad leaders that are going to say, do as I say, not as I do. And that's how you end up with toxic leadership. So I do commend the first classes that are with you chipping away at this floor. I do commend the people that are doing that. And if they're doing a good job leading those 50 people, that means they're doing their job. They are effective leaders. And so I would say, if you're learning anything from his video, don't let that rank hold you. All right.
And I'm emphasizing this because during that time, as I was making these videos, a lot of the older YouTubers that have been in for a while have been coming into my videos and saying like, hey, once you make rank, it gets better. The longer you stay in, it gets better. But they have not a clue. They don't understand because they've had such a good military experience. They don't know the bad side of the Navy. They don't know the butt crack side of the Navy. The things that they don't want to show you on the commercials. The things they try not to show you in the media, in the public. The things that you will never see in the movies. And that was my first 2.5 years. So I am in a Newport News shipyard environment, which is a very unique working environment. I have a job. I'm more of a construction worker. At the same time, the people that I'm working with are what I would categorize as low quality people. If I owned a McDonald's franchise, and I'm not knocking McDonald's, I'm a shareholder in McDonald's. I would love to own and operate a McDonald's franchise.
I like his little plug. He's like, I gotta own one.
People that I used to work with came to me and said, hey Kim, can I work at your McDonald's? I will say no, because you're not even worth $1 an hour. I don't even want you to clean my toilets for free because you're not a trustworthy person.
All right. So this is where I kind of have an issue with Yoon's idea of people, right? And I get what he's saying. We have had, and he said this, there are good people, bad people, good and bad on the spectrum, right? And he's talking about like they've made his time miserable here because the quality of people. When I hear this, if I worked with Yoon afterwards, I'm going to say, screw that guy. I'm not going to go work with Yoon. I don't even want to talk to that guy anymore. And now, like, this is the part of the video I would have never included. This part of the quality of people you work with. Because you're going to cross paths with these people again. Are you talking about your chief here? Are you talking about your first class? Are you talking? I mean, that's just my experience from it is like, you have to understand you're upholding your reputation here. You've put this online, on the internet. And now people that are, you may have been cool with her, are now going to question you on that. And I think it's kind of unfair because I understand that there are people you don't want to work with. But as a leader, and you are a leader as an E5, you are, right? You're technically in some kind of probably work center supervisor position where you are going to have to win over people. Sometimes that is the worst person you don't want to see every day. And I've had that too, where there's people where I'm like, man, I can't stand having to work with this person. But I have to almost become a chameleon at certain points and say, this person I can be stern with. This person I have to kind of do like the hold your hand, warm and fuzzy, get you to go do the task. So I understand that you're frustrated, but I think what I want to get to this is Yoon's first command. If his story here is adding up, this is just one command of the entire Navy. There's hundreds, thousands of them. And so when I look at it, I'm like, Yoon, chill, man. It's one command. That's what we're basing this on. I understand. I'm not saying your points are invalid. I'm just saying experience may vary, and I've said that in videos all the time. So, yeah, just looking at that.
right? You're going to do more harm than good, even if you're working for free, right? For example, if I tasked these people, like, hey, this cup, put it into the sink. It's about 10 feet. I'll give you an hour to do it. You come back an hour. They'll give you 10, 20, 30 different excuses as to why they couldn't do it. They have nothing going on, but they couldn't do it because of all these excuses. And it was so frustrating at that time having to work with these people, that these people are my equivalent, right? It was a very humbling experience, I will say that. Because when you join the military, it doesn't matter what your past was, where you came from, right? All that matters is the uniform that you wear and the rank that you have. And it was super frustrating because within a day you're given a task, right? And there are bad people, but there are also good people, right? Good people
All right.
who are worth the money that the military is paying. And so we'd get our job done, and then we come back at the end of the day, and the low quality people obviously didn't get their job done, or they got it done in a very crappy way, and we'd have to go back and kind of redo their work or do their work for them. And for years they went unpunished, and it was super frustrating. Like, am I the only one? Like, can no one see this, right? And the upper chain of command was at that same time was also low quality people, so they
Yoon, man. Yoon. Bro, I can only tell you this video right now. I'm not saying it because your feelings aren't valid. They are, but there's more constructive ways to go about it, man. And I'm not saying it's one of those things where you're talking about low quality people, and I'm looking at it where I'm like, how could we empower those people to be better? And I'm not saying that to just be optimistic, right? I'm saying that because these communication skills, this is why you joined the military. You wanted to better yourself and be the best version of you. To be the best version, you have to have adversity. To be a leader, to run a business, like if you were a franchise owner of McDonald's, I would challenge you to actually go talk to an owner and say, what is your pet peeve about your employees that you have? They're going to say, I've got some really strong ones, but I've got some really lazy ones. And no matter what team you're on, you're going to have some comparison where some are really great and some are really not. And that's just a fact of life. It's frustrating.
protected these junior sailors, which I understand. When you're brand new to the Navy, you kind of understand where they came from because they were also low quality people. So they'll stay in for a while, become LPOs, become upper chain, and they kind of protect these junior sailors from the bad decisions they make. But over time, like I've been in for 5 years now, I could see that they actually do themselves. They shoot themselves in the foot basically by, doing drugs, drinking under the influence, and just doing the craziest things that you could ever imagine, and get themselves kicked out and be in trouble with the law. So over time, they do get filtered out.
So I get what he's saying. So the people that are bad workers are going to end up continue being bad workers, and the chain of command, the upper parts, are the ones that are going to coddle them and make them better. You got to realize a lot of people are coming from places where they have not had to work in professional work environments. They haven't had these communication skills. They haven't had these work issues, right, where they're dealing with it. Some of these are 18-year-old kids, right? And I get it. And some of the chiefs, some of the officers get that. You can't burn everybody. At one point, you need workers, right? You don't, in the Navy or in the military, you don't control how fast the supply comes back in. At McDonald's, you can fire somebody and get somebody in the next day probably, and will maybe pick it up quicker. That is a possibility. In the military, you don't have that. Also, on top of that, chiefs are looked at for retention, for retaining and making them look good. It is frustrating, but as a leader myself, and I'm going to say you too, Yoon, you're looking at this, and I have to say, you're going to spend your 90% on the 10% that are not with the program. That is sadly what it ends up being, and that's a phrase people say of that's, part of being a leader. But you wish you could give your 90% of your time to the 10% that are really killing it, or the top 90, or, whatever your percentage is. So
At that time, I was so upset that I actually considered getting myself kicked out purposely to be out of the military. And at that time, I was talking to somebody, MM1 Brian, somebody that I highly respected. And if you are ever going through a tough time when you are in the military, I do highly recommend that you talk to somebody that you do respect, that you kind of do see an eye to eye, and they also understand, you know, who you are, where you came from, and what you're feeling. And MM1 Brian at that time was the person for me. And I remember just saying everything that I told you to him, and he said, you know, you gave your word to this organization that you will proudly serve. And if you purposely get yourself kicked out, then how good is your word? And when he said that, it really hit me.
I also want to add to this. I love that he made this comment here because it's so true. People come in so ready, so motivated, and I wish I could just show somebody like when they first came in and how stoked they were to just even be ready to say that they were a Marine, a sailor, an airman, and then they go to boot camp, then they go to A school, and you just see this decline. And some people are able to maintain it, some people are able to hold that up. There's a couple of people that have some fluctuations after, but you'll kind of see the slow decline on some of these people, and that is true. Your word, holding up to it. I can't tell you how many people I'm like, listen, stick to it. You put your hand up. Let's get you through this, because you know this MM1. I find myself in that situation being the listening ear for people like you, and that they're like, H1, I'm going through a hard time, and so many people write me on Instagram too. How can I get out early? How? And most of the times when I talk to somebody, I'm like, I talk to them. You know, weeks go by and they're like, I just need someone to talk to. That was it. I needed to relax for a second. And it's true, man. It's going to be stressful. It's going to be tough. No one said the military was going to be easy. That's why only 1% serve. That's why only so many people are eligible to join. That's why they are concerned about mental health issues before you even come in. They don't want to make this stuff worse.
And so within my 3 years, I worked extremely hard every single day, because that's the type of person that I am, and I care about what I do, right? I care about the product. The Navy pays me, well, I better be worth the money that the Navy is paying me. The Navy got a good deal when they signed me. My hard work did not go unnoticed, right? It did get noticed, right? I did get many awards. I did get a Navy Achievement Medal within my first 3 years. I did get recognitions, and I built such a great reputation that I became a person that everybody kind of wanted. I wasn't their number one pick, but definitely number two, number three pick. And because I worked hard every single day, everybody came to me with work, and it got to the point where I literally didn't have a single second to myself. Right? When I tell you I didn't have a single second, I literally did not have a single second to myself to check Facebook, to check the stock market, to talk to my family. None of that, because how my day kind of looked.
All right, he gets into the weeds with this part of the video, but what I want to say is, like, you'll notice in the Navy, and I've said this time and time again, my frustrations with the evaluation system typically are the people that are the most competent that you want to take on deployment or to go fight the next battle or the next war. They are typically not your highest rated person. Just like he says here, where he says, I was the go-to guy, but I was their number two, their number three. And I don't know why that is. I've always wondered why that happens in our organization and why that's an issue. But
very depressing time. And so I made the best out of it, because up until then, I came in with $200. At that time, I had $100,000, $110,000, $120,000. Now I have $130,000. I decided, you know what? Let me give it one more try. Let me do.
This is where I have the biggest issue with how it was for Yoon here. In the beginning, he says, when everything goes wrong, go left. And he didn't keep that advice. And I'm like, man, you know, I mean, in my opinion, he's on track. He's doing what he's supposed to per, like, his job and everything, like how fast he's advanced, his qualifications, everything makes sense. I'm like, it's kind of confusing to me, because I'm like, you are successful. Like, I think he's discounting his success and what he's been able to achieve, you know, as it's not what I expected.
Right, my whole career was just filled with false hopes, right? I made the best out of it. Right? Financially, I made the best out of it. Career-wise, I came in E1, now I'm in E5. And so because every single day, no matter what, every single day, I genuinely cared about my work. I worked hard every single day. My chain of command within ARMD really fought for me. Without them, I would not be where I am right now in Maryland, quarantined. I wouldn't be where I am right now. I'd still be stuck in California where everything's closed and I'd be sitting on the cement just to use some Wi-Fi. And I truly am thankful for that chain of command.
At least you get some credit here.
I'm at the promised land, and we'll see what happens. Because my military experience was just so crappy and so challenging and so difficult and so frustrating that it's made me figure out who I was as a person. I stand up for the Navy core values of honor, courage, and commitment. When I gave my word to this thing, I kept my word. I work hard, no matter what. No matter, there's frustrating people. I don't like the work I'm doing. I still work hard every single day. I genuinely care about what I do every single day. And through all this experience, it's made me such a better person. And I am on my way now to be successful, right?
This is where I want to say, Yoon, you are successful, man. Think about it. You have more than $200 in your pocket like you did when you started. You've got some rank. You've got a nice hotel room you're sitting at, which you're probably going to have a nice house somewhere in Maryland eventually as a LS2. You're going to be living out in town, making housing allowance. It sounds like you got the school you wanted. It sounds like things are going your way. And what I've had to learn is the same thing you're going to have to learn. And that is the idea that those adversities shaped you and you're not going to be where you're at now without those adversities. That is bottom line. That's a life in general. Everybody is going to have a challenge. You look back maybe as your previous life is maybe a little nostalgic because you forget about the concerns or worries or maybe that pressure, that stress you felt then. But now you have different stressors, right? Like we constantly live from stressor to stressor, right? Like that's what motivates us to keep moving or going. So listen, you're successful. I think you need to do what a lot of people, even me as myself, have to be patient. Be patient and understand you're not going to be up there at 1 million like that, right? Like that you got to 130,000. Like that didn't happen overnight. So just realize that diligence, that time, the energy, it's about the little things you do day to day. It's not these big major moves that maybe what you're thinking of this as, but I think sit down, relax, breathe, give yourself some credit, man. I want to see that more. You need to give yourself more credit. You've done a lot. You've worked hard, man. Give yourself a pat on the back. Use $1,000. Take a freaking vacation if that's really what you need. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like take a breath, man. Life is about enjoying the process. And I feel like watching this video, you have not enjoyed the process as much as you maybe should have. And I've had to learn that too. I've worked to get my master's. I've worked to try and commission now. I've worked through IDC school. I've done a lot of things where I've really put down my social life and grinded things out. And so I would say I think you should probably do that. Take some time, man. This is me looking out for you. It's not just, trying to be the most successful. Sometimes you got to take a minute for yourself.
If the Navy came to me and said, "Hey, Kim, you have a choice. We're going to go back. We're going to put you back onto the ship for the next 5 years right now, or you give us all your $130,000." I'm going to give them $130,000, get out, and I'll just walk away. That's how much the military has scarred me. This 3 more years is the absolute last thing that I'm going to do. But
what I want to add to that is what he tells you is literally what I try and tell you guys all the time. What do you think about Nuke? What do you think about this or that? It is quality of life. He has just told you money is not the factor that he worries about. Even though how analytical he is, even though how much he's willing to analyze stock market trends and everything else, it's not the money. That's what you have to realize. And I wish he was able to enjoy certain people around him, like that MM1 that he was talking about, and maybe realize you got to find allies wherever you're at. You got to find some friends that make your day worth it. And I can name a couple people I work with that make my day worth it, because if it wasn't for them, I would have a major breakdown. I would have major issues at my command. So that's just what I'm going to tell you. That's my advice for you guys coming in. All right, so that wraps up my views of this video. It was cut short because of the fact that I didn't want to go on and on and on about the entire 25-minute video he's got here, but I want to know your guys' thoughts, what you guys think. Please leave them down in the comments below. I love you guys. I'll see you next time.